Welcome, everyone, to Quadcast Episode 1, the all-ATV podcast, certified 100% cage-free by ATV enthusiasts worldwide, or at least me and Jeff. I'm your host, Joe Tolle, editor for ATV On Demand, here with Jeff Henson, editor for Dirt Wheels Magazine. Jeff, how are you?
Good. How's it going, everybody? We are super excited to get Quadcast up and running, the joint venture between Dirt Wheels and ATV On Demand, and we got a pretty cool show for you today on our first episode.
What do we got?
We have, obviously we are talking about ATVs and the resurgence of ATVs and the return of sport ATVs in particular. Today, we're going to be talking about a machine that is new to the U.S. market. It's been around for a little bit, but it is a full-size sport quad and that I got to ride. It is legit. We'll be talking all about that with our special guest from this manufacturer. More on that in just a bit.
That's sweet. I can't wait to get into that. Today's show, guys, is brought to you because got to have sponsors by the Pack Talk Edge ORV communication system from Cardo. It's hands-free voice-activated communication. You don't have to push buttons. You can pair it with your phone. You can listen to your music through it. You don't want to hear your loud machine or anybody else's. Listen to your tunes. These units are good for up to a mile of communication between units. If you pair them up in larger groups, you can go up to 5 miles. We've used them for about a year now in our shoots. It's made the experience a lot more fun, enjoyable. We're laughing, we're joking throughout the entire day. Plus, we use them to spot for our riders in case somebody's coming the other way on the trail. It just makes the experience more fun, more safe. And once you get a pair, you'll wish you had them your whole adult life you've been riding. So go on down to the affiliate link below in the description. You'll save 10% most times. Sometimes they run big flash sales and you can save even more. Or if you want to do shopping on their website directly, you can go over to cardosystems.com, use affiliate code Quadcast at checkout, and we'd appreciate it. It'll buy us some coffee. That's it for the beginning. Let's get into Wide Open Wire. All right, it's time for Wide Open Wire. This segment of our show, we typically are going to discuss current news, events, new machines, things that we've done, whatever's hot and new in the ATV industry. For episode 1, though, since some of you may know us, some of you may not, we kind of thought we should kind of use this segment to give you guys a little background on us so you know why we think we might be qualified to do this. And, let's kind of get to know ourselves a little bit and talk about why we decided to do this podcast. Jeff, how did you get here? How did you wind up as an editor for the oldest, one of the last standing and very important print publications in ATVing?
Well, first and foremost, I came in as an enthusiast, somebody that loves ATV riding. I started out on dirt bikes back in the 80s. Got my first ride on an 87 Banshee. Yamaha Banshee that a friend was riding, and that did it for me. When that power kicked in, I was hooked. Went out the next week and bought myself an 89 Banshee back in 1989, obviously, and have been hooked ever since. I started off in off-road media back in 99. I've worked for almost every ATV magazine, print and online that ever was. Fast forward to today, I am the editor, one of 3 editors at Dirt Wheels Magazine. Also, I have been racing since the early 90s. Former Baja Racer scorer, Raceworks, still race today in the old guy classes. I've raced motocross, just completely hooked on the ATV lifestyle and made it a career after so long. How about you, Joe?
Well, I got started with my best friend as a child. Got a dirt bike when he was 4. I spent the next, 17, years of my life drooling and wishing I had a bike. Mom said, no, I won't buy you a dirt bike. So, it's one of those deals where if you don't let your kids do something they really want to do, they'll figure out a way to ruin their life with it or make a life of it. No, I have no regrets in what I do. Got my first dirt bike when I was 17. Got it taken by the cops for doing some stuff I shouldn't have done. Got back into dirt bikes a year later, rode them for a few years. When I was 21, I bought my first ATV, bought a brand new Yamaha Warrior. I'd looked at ATVs for years, seen them a couple times. Finally decided to make the switch. I like the drifting thing, being able to slide through the corners on 4 wheels instead of on my butt. So quads were just a better fit. They were a lot more fun. Fast forward to my late 20s, I learned you could edit video on a computer from my cousin. I didn't know that was a thing. And I'm like, wow. And 2 months later, I had a camcorder and a computer, and I was learning how to edit video. I was very intrigued. By the time I was 29, I had already done my first professional gig. It was the second video I ever edited for a motocross kid. Was about to build my third full race quad. Was going to start with one website, didn't work out. Ended up at ATV Scene with John Pellin. He gave me a break, helped me get into this. A few years later, family made some investment. ATV On Demand was launched and haven't looked back. I'm told by people at the manufacturers that I was one of the first people, if not the first, they remember showing up with a video camera. So that's some history. Maybe that's important. I'm proud of it, and I'm going to do it as long as I can. So
yeah, I know your long form videos. You have one of the most recognizable voices in ATV power sports media. And there you go.
Now everyone knows why you only hear me and you don't see me. So it is what it is. At least I'm not fat anymore, so I can say that. That went well.
I will say this. Obviously, Joe and I both are big fans of handlebar side of four-wheeled power sports, and that's what this podcast is all about. And while a lot of industry types are telling us that there is no market for sport quads and ATVs, we are seeing a resurgence. We don't believe it, and we are here to promote it.
Yeah, and I guess, Jeff, we should maybe tell them, like, this didn't just happen. It's not like we just sat here and decided, a week ago we should do this. It's been something that's come up in discussion over the past, I don't know, we've known each other probably 15, 20 years.
Over 20 years.
Yeah, we've ran the same roads, but we've just connected over the last few years at a Can-Am event. Really in 23 is when we really started talking.
Right. Yeah. And discovered, the things that we are seeing on our end, what we are hearing from our viewers, our readers, it just points to there is very much a market and a love for the handlebar side, as I keep calling it, of power sports, ATVs, both 4x4 ATVs, sport 4x4 ATVs, and sport quads. We are really seeing a big comeback even at the racetracks. The numbers of ATVs that are showing up for races, especially at the youth level, the future pros of this sport, big deal. And we're also seeing on the 4x4 side, a lot of big manufacturers in the business are revamping their ATV lineup and seeing that that segment, that the lower income and middle class consumers, machines that not everybody can afford a $40,000-$50,000 side by side. So
not
it's
me.
Great to, yeah, not me either, not on an editor's pay, but we are seeing some of them are taking notice of that and taking care of those consumers because, as those, the higher class people, as they age out, you got to have something there for the younger guys, and the lower income people to enjoy. And quite honestly, I enjoy ATVs more.
I do too. I have a ton of fun in side by sides, but it's like when I can drive something up a hill in a video game and it's fun. I can drive a side by side up a hill and it's fun. If I drive an ATV up a hill or I jump something, I was 50% of the machine. If I didn't work, it didn't work. I'm not pointing in and working the throttle. I'm counterbalancing. There's so much more involved. I just get a greater satisfaction out of it. That's me. And I think there's a lot of people that are out there that feel that way. And kind of just to go back to come forward, Jeff kind of caught wind. We were at the Can-Am intro. We started talking sport quads. Jeff heard I had a great hobby, which was trolling manufacturers at their events about why they're not building sport quads. So Jeff reaches out to me one day and says, I hear you've got this hobby, trolling manufacturers at their events about the sport ATV segment. He says, I want to team up. So
I want in on it.
Yeah. And that was like, okay, that's what I want. I want a tag team partner in this. So, you've got a guy that works at Dirt Wheels who is moving the needle over there. The publication is growing. Other publications where Jeff has worked in the past, he won't brag, but I will for him. This isn't the first time he's moved the needle on a publication, but when you've got a guy that's passionate about a segment, that really loves it, wants it, wants to see it grow, wants to see it thrive, it's going to do good for that segment. So this podcast for you guys that are like, we want to see more sport quads, or we want more sport quad content out of Dirt Wheels. Well, here you go. I mean, here's a piece of content. It's all sport quad. And yes, there are people behind the scenes at publications. We're not just, it's not a paycheck to us. There's other ways we could make more money than being editors in the power sports industry. But we want to move the needle as much as we can for the segments that we love, that we believe in. And, because we want affordable, reliable, and fun machines available in power sports dealers for that next generation that's coming up. And because, that the young guys out there, you 21, 22-year-olds, it was that age that built this industry, young people getting started in life, limited income. And we want to make sure that there's, more options than just dirt bikes for younger people. Sport ATVs are a ton of fun, and it's my favorite. But we've seen some promising stuff. I mean, obviously, movement in the ride-on segment at all is potential for sport quad growth in the future. And we've got some sport quad growth to talk about here later today. But, look at what you and I have seen with Can-Am just in the last 2 years.
Yeah, in the last 2 years, especially with the, on the 4x4 side, that the 500 and 700 Outlander models, they completely redesigned these machines from the ground up. And now they've done the same with the 850 1000 models on the Outlander, produced the first ATV to break the 100 horsepower segment. The new Outlander 1000R is 101 horsepower. Very cool machine. I think I'm more impressed by the ride of this machine than I am the actual power that it puts out. Also, I've been talking about this on Dirt Wheels for a while. There is, we've been seeing patent drawings from Yamaha of a new sport 4x4 ATV that's coming to market. Yeah, I know you like it, Joe. You can't wait, just like me.
I mean, what's really exciting about that in those patent drawings is if you look at every sport 4x4 that's hit the market up until this point, the Renegade, the Scrambler, the old Scrambler, which is still available as an 850 in that 48 inch wide category. Then, of course, we have the Sportsman and Scrambler S that are 55 inches wide. But everything that has been sport 4x4 really up until this point, even if you go back to the Yamaha Wolverines back in the day, the Yamaha Wolverine 350, and then the Yamaha Wolverine 450, all the sport 4x4s up until now began their life as a sport utility 4x4 built for as much for work as it is for play. This thing as sport plastic, it looks like it's the first potential ground up sport 4x4 that we've seen built for a single purpose, and that's to rip.
Yeah, it actually has a kind of a narrow space between the knees, so it's actually designed to feel much more like a sport quad. I don't know what I'm really excited to find out what the overall weight is of this machine. We are thinking it's probably somewhere in the 850 range. And before anybody says, "Oh, it's not a 1000," well, you know what? If you talk to the top pros with the GNCC series, that 850 range is actually the perfect spot for one of those machines. A whole lot more horsepower than you can handle. It just wears you out quicker.
Well, and power to weight ratio matters more than anything. And
exactly.
Since they don't have to develop this chassis with racks in mind, since they don't have to develop this chassis potentially with a hitch in mind, unless they prove us wrong and they drop a new Grizzly 850 twin at the same time. And even if they do, I expect Yamaha's going to have a lighter machine than the competition. And riding the Grizzly 700, Yamaha's got some magic sauce when it comes to burying weight. I think the YFZR feels lighter than it is. The Grizzly 700 is a pretty light 4x4. It's in that it's in the 700s. But when you jump it, like in just about any other 4x4, if you jump it, it's like, okay, whatever direction you want to go when you take off is where you're going to go. With the Grizzly, it's like, I want to change the trajectory. I want to, tilt this bike a little bit. I want to have some fun. It feels way lighter than it is when you get it in the air. So when you get that Yamaha engineering, probably a lighter vehicle, better mass centralization than the competition, I expect it to be a killer.
Yeah, and I'll go into a few more details that you can see, and we've been dropping the drawings into the podcast here so you can see what we've been looking at. The engine is actually facing backward, so the exhaust is straight out the back. The intake comes straight in from the front. It is a twin cylinder, and it has fully adjustable shocks, front and rear, tons of ground clearance. It just looks like it could be a very lethal GNCC weapon for those guys that are currently racing Renegades, and I think there's a few Polarises out there, also Scramblers. It looks like Yamaha isn't just happy claiming the XC1, XC2, those sport quad classes. They went on in on that 4x4 sport market also.
So really, I mean, if you look at it all, we've got a new sport quad in the market, which maybe you and I had something to do with. I'm not sure. I hope we made a difference in that. We've got a lot of patent drawings. Well, we've got patent drawings that keep dropping from Yamaha. So they're cooking up something. Whether or not they're ever going to release it, they won't tell us until we're on an airplane on the way there. But it looks like something's coming from them. You got a brand new Outlander lineup in the past 2 years, bottom to top. Gen 3 is coming, we believe, for Renegade and Renegade mud models, probably in 26, I'm going to guess. So I think there's a lot to be excited about right now in the ride-on segment. And we're going to keep pushing for more because that's our job, right?
Exactly. And there's plenty of other rumors out there too, but these are the ones that we have some degree of confirmation on. So we'll save those other rumors for the next episode or two.
Good idea. Well, let's get into the next segment, take a look at what products are new for ATVs this month, and let's get ready to gear up.
Sounds good.
All right, it's time to get geared up for the month of June, the segment in the Quadcast where we talk about the latest ATV-related products hitting the market. I think we got a pretty good round of products for June. Jeff, what do we got? What's new for quads?
Let's start off with RWI Wheels. Actually, the company is right here in my home state of Arizona. I have been running these wheels on my YFZ 450R for a while now. One of the great things about these wheels is they have a dual bolt pattern, so you can run. Like myself, I have a YFZ 450R. I also have a TRX 250R. I can pop the wheels off my Yamaha, put them on my Honda. Great feature to have, when I want to run both machines, so I'm not having to buy twice as many wheels and tires for each machine. You can get them with beadlocks. They're just super nice looking wheel, very strong. I've been running them this year in the Work Series with no issues. The beadlocks themselves, they hold air great. I know Logan Huff, who is a pro with the Work Series. He's been running them with really good success. He was leading the points this year in the Pro ATV class. I know they got some guys out on the GNC and probably GNCC series running these wheels too. Haven't had any issues, but really cool product. And you can check them out at, I gotta look up the web address here, which I lost, but rwimotorsports.com. You can order direct online right there.
So real quick, are they available in single and dual beadlocks for the rear?
I'm not so sure about the dual beadlocks yet, but I do know that they have them for a GP set, a race kit. They have a GNCC style race kit, cross country anyway, and they also have a motocross setup.
Okay, so they have 8-inch rear beadlocks and 9-inch rear beadlocks as well.
Correct.
Oh, good. Well, they can get you outfitted no matter what sport of ATV racing, whatever discipline you're in. That's cool. And they're good looking, and they're a good looking wheel.
And I don't know that anybody, really the pressure is on the outside of the wheel no matter what you're doing. So if you want dual beadlocks, give them a call and see what they can do for you.
Right on. What else we got?
We have DBR Products, another manufacturer of sport quad products that I have been running on my YFZ 450R2. I think they just released some new Pro Nerf bars.
DRR dropped the new 50 and 90. They're kind of like one of the big names in kids race quads right now.
Yeah.
If you're a mini dad, you probably know that. And they have a line of stuff that have come out for these things, including their Nerf bars for the new DRK90. You use them on your YFZ. You were saying, how do you like them?
I like them on my YFZ because they actually, I'm a taller guy. They drop the peg height, and they have a super aggressive peg that stretches all the way out to the edge of the Nerf bar. But they drop the peg height down a good 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches. It's more comfortable for me. Super grippy on my grip, on the bottom of my boots. They use a standard net design with heel guards. Really, really cool product. Very stout. And they don't bounce around either inside the chassis. I mean, it's a very rigid setup.
Chris Borning owns the company. He has a son that races. They're out often. It seems like every weekend they're going out racing. And, their line of products for the DRK 90s, and 50s, they're going to be built to the same kind of standards of quality that they build for the big bikes. Chris does build his stuff here in the United States with DBR. So, if Nerf bars are not a part that you want to skimp on, you stand on them, you land on them, they defend you from other riders. So, you want strong, good quality Nerf bars, American sourced materials, American manufacturing. So I wouldn't skimp on Nerf bars for my quad. I certainly wouldn't for my kids. So, check out DBR for their new Nerf bars for the DRR 50 and the DRK 90.
Make sure you check them out at dbr/atv.com.
All right. What else do we got?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have let's talk about Cardo.
Let's talk about them. What do they have new?
Well, they have a brand new microphone actually that for their helmet-to-helmet communication that is waterproof. It's great for guys that, especially if you're a mud rider, you want to communicate with your buddies, helmet-to-helmet communication. This will keep you talking. It won't clog up with mud. It's waterproof. Fantastic new addition to the Edge phones and the helmet-to-helmet communication devices that they have.
Yeah, we haven't wrecked one yet, but typically when it starts raining, we start running. So for those guys, if you race in cross country and you got to be out there in terrible weather, it'll still work. You won't ruin it. And if you're a mud rider like Jeff was last month with Can-Am,
I got to go out to Louisiana and do some riding with Dustin Jones in mud deeper than anything I've ever done. Definitely unlike what little mud we get here in Arizona.
Were you guys outfitted with communication there, or were you just yelling?
We weren't, but it would have been a lot better experience, and it was fantastic as it was. But if we could have communicated a little bit better, it probably would have been a big help for Dustin telling us land lovers how to actually walk an ATV through seat deep mud.
So there you go, guys. If you've got a Cardo system now, or you're going to get one, you probably want to go ahead and just pick up that wireless mic, because if you ride out in bad weather, you might be glad you did. Jeff, what else do we got?
Absolutely. We have, hold on, as my computer is very slow, but we are going to talk about the new steering stem for a 4x4 ATV from Texera Tech.
Oh, the Renegade and the Outlander Gen 2 models.
Yep. This part is designed to provide a more comfortable ride, anti-vibration. You won't get as much feedback through the bars with this. Not that you get a whole lot of that with a Can-Am anyway, but it's just a much more comfortable ride for all-day excursions.
And what's cool is, being an aftermarket steering stem, if you want something higher, I don't know about lower. I don't know if Ed can take it lower without getting into the machine, but if you want a +1 stem, maybe want to move the bars forward. Actually, Ed's bar clamps are multi-position adjustable on most other units, so I'm going to assume that they're going to be on that one as well. So if you want to move your bars forward or backwards, there's multi-positions. Texera Tech, I know their owner at Texera. Again, it's another American company. They build their stuff out of TIG-welded, American-sourced 4130 chromoly, built in Tracy, California, in their facility. So We've used this stuff. Ed's not as known as some other brands, but I position him. He's like a JB or a Walsh to us. He's a little bougie, and I'm good with that. That's why I like to That's why I like to use his stuff.
Yeah, well-known products actually in the racing field too. I know a lot of desert racers that have been running his stuff, especially his arms, or his high clearance A arms. Great for rocky trails, even getting through mud and stuff like that. Great products.
And they dominate. Right now their A arms are on most of the quads in Pro Row for Pro 4x4 and probably other classes that, they're a 4x4. If you're on a Renegade, you probably are running Texera Tech arms. If not, the guys that are winning are. So, he's done very well in that 4x4 space. And, here's another product for those guys. Look for them to be getting the jump on the Gen 3 Renegades as those start coming out because, Ed's doing good in that segment and he wants to keep it going.
Yeah. What's the website for him anyway?
I should know that, right? Type it in. I think it's texeratech.com. And boy, will I put it in the lower third if it's not. TEIXEIRA tech.com.
There you go.
Yeah.
And finally, Elka suspension.
What model? They didn't come out with all new shocks, did they?
They actually, you're right. They did. They came out with some new shocks for the Can-Am Outlander 500, 700 series, and now the 850 1000R series.
Those bikes have pretty good suspension out of the box, but yeah, they have available in their full range. Stage 1, I believe, through stage 5, and stage 1 is, I believe, a non-piggyback adjustable shock. It's not adjustable. It's preload adjustable, no reservoir. So it's, the damping is set. And one thing, Jeff, some guys, I guess if you get a 4x4, you might be like, what do I care about aftermarket suspension? I don't need suspension. I like the way it rides. But those shocks aren't rebuildable, unless you get a super high-end trim package that has rebuildable shocks with reservoirs. Those things have a shelf life. They have a use life. And if you ride your ATV very often, within a couple of years, your shocks aren't what they were. And I mean, you're either going to go to the dealer, buy disposable shocks, or you can just buy a set of Elkas for your machine and you're done. You can maintain them for the life of the vehicle.
Yeah, and some riders weigh 130 pounds. Some riders weigh 330 pounds. You can get these shocks dialed in for your weight, your style of riding. The cargo that you normally carry, that's all figured in to valving and spring rates. It's just another great way to personalize your ride and make it more comfortable for yourself.
So yeah, stage 1, preload adjustable for the guys that just want to replace those OEM shocks. It's probably going to make the ride better as well. You might be surprised. But of course, they have stage 2, 3, 4, and 5. They add features as they go. You go to the top of the line, stage 5s. You got high and low speed compression, rebound adjustment, crossover, threaded preload. So now you've got a shock that, it's a full-on race shock if that's what you want to do. And they all use very, very similar, but pretty much the same materials throughout the line, all rebuildable, all high quality. I'll just finish by saying we had a Sportsman project that we did last year, and the Sportsman XP chassis at one point kind of to us sort of set the standard at the time, but now it's like compared to what's out there, they're a little rolly, they're a little boaty. Like you hit the gas, front end comes up, it dives, it's got some body roll. It's pretty stable, but doesn't have a really planted feel. We use stage 4s. We think that's a really sweet spot for a guy who understands clickers, but doesn't want to get super nerdy in his setup time. So, low speed compression, low speed rebound. We slapped those shocks on that thing. It was flat. You hit the gas, the front end barely came up. You hit the brakes, dive was like 80% gone. Body roll in the corners, that thing cornered flat, man. It was like a scrambler just putting on those shocks. So what a huge transformation, and it was still plush. So we didn't give up ride quality. We just gained confidence handling. And I think we could have got that with most of the shocks in the lineup. It didn't take much tuning at all. They were good out of the box. So, yeah, if you got an old 4x4 starting to ride a little clapped out, get some Elka shocks. If you want to increase the performance and the ride quality of it, same answer. They've got more shocks for more 4x4s than anybody. So check them out, elkasuspension.com for our friends up north of Canada.
They still make them for sport quads too. I've got a set on my YFZ 450R also, stage 5s, and love the adjustability on these. Being able to dial the ride in, for me, it makes it a softer ride better than my skill level. actually. Very comfortable ride. Great out on the track. We're out in the dunes. We're out on the trails. Great product.
Do you got some pricing for us?
I do, actually. I know the Stage 1 shocks retail around $1,350. And then the fully adjustable race ready Stage 5 shocks sell for, I believe it's around $3,900 for the full set, front and rear.
Right, and that's all four. Not too bad at the
entry level. I'm sorry, yeah, all four. I'm thinking sport quad still.
No, you said it. You said it. You said front and rear. So that is all four.
Got it.
Well, and there it is. Some new exciting products for the month of June for your ATV, some for the sport guys, some for the sport utility guys. And if you want to have your product featured, if you're a company and you have a new product coming out for the ATV industry, go over to quad-cast.com. You can shoot us an email there. Give us your email address. Let us know, hey, I want to have a product featured. We'll get a hold of you, let you know how to get it on the show. So again, that's quad-cast.com. And looking forward to some new products in July.
Speaking of new products, we're getting ready to dial in with our special guest to talk about a new sport quad coming to the market. So let's dig in.
All right. All right, so it's time for our first special guest. Very excited to have this gentleman join us. It's been over a year in the making. The fact that he's with us means that we have a new sport ATV that's coming to the United States, something that hasn't happened in a long time. I know Jeff and I are very excited about it. I think he is too. This is the first time he's smiled since he got on with us. Other than that, he's been mean mugging. This is Brock Harden with Kayo. Brock, how are you?
Welcome, Brock.
It's hard not to smile with a hype man like you, so you could thank yourself for that. Thanks for having us on. Like you said, it's been a long time coming. We've had a lot of these conversations over the course of the past year, probably weekly. So now we just put a camera in front of it and a microphone, and here we are.
Exactly.
Right on.
So we are talking about Joe.
We're talking about the hopefully 2026. We're guessing Kayo in Europe. It was the A300 in Europe.
Yep.
In the United States, it will be renamed the Jackal 300.
That's correct. It's actually going to be the Jackal 300 EFI because it is going to come in its first iteration as an EFI model. So Jackal 300 EFI is the official model name.
Well, instead of us telling the story about how it came to market, you guys received a lot of harassment. So let's dig into a little bit about you and your history. Can you tell us who you are and what your title is, what you do at Kayo?
Yeah, so like you said, my name is Brock Harden. I'm the marketing manager at Kayo USA. I have a long history in the power sports industry, starting off way back when I was 13, starting at KTM. I was lucky enough to get a job there at such a young age because my dad, Scott Harden, was the VP of marketing. He's a old school desert racer and, AMA Hall of Fame member. I think he's in several other Hall of Fames for his desert racing career. So I really grew up around the sport and in it. On top of that, my uncle on my mom's side is also in the AMA Hall of Fame. He's another legend in the sport. So I grew up idolizing these guys and really just invested my entire life into, two wheels, specifically two wheels.
Well, I mean, not every kid who grows up racing dirt bikes or riding dirt bikes has an AMA Hall of Famer in the house. So, it's nice to grow up with a dad you can literally idolize.
Yeah.
So how long have you been with Kayo?
I've been with them almost 2 years now. Coming up on 2 years.
For those of you guys who don't know, I mean, we'll just put it out there right now. Kayo is a Chinese company, and I think 10 years ago we probably wouldn't have been having this discussion. Times were different, quality was different. There are a few manufacturers now coming out of China that are coming on strong, and things are looking pretty good. One thing I know I had mentioned, and I think Jeff would agree. If you go back to the 60s, a lot of World War II guys were like, I don't want that Japanese stuff. It's junk. By the time the 80s came around, we didn't want anything else. So, you go back 10, 15 years, like Chinese ATVs just weren't on the radar. Like there was nothing to get excited about there. But, you guys have a dealer network. You have parts in the United States. And and you've got this unit. What is your guys' strongest segment right now?
So yeah, like you said, we're in about 600 tier one dealerships across North America, and that's what really separates us from other brands. With that tier one dealership comes that service center. So the customers, yes, they're buying a Chinese manufactured motorcycle power sport vehicle, but it comes with a 6-month warranty, and it comes with the backing of that dealership. There's a lot more to it, but I would say our biggest segment currently is the ATV youth market. We're kind of one of the unique OEMs in the fact that we manufacture a different displacement motorcycle for every category in that ATV action plan. So in some cases we'll have 2 bikes for a category, and that's our biggest segment is that youth ATV.
I just want to go off of what we've been talking about too. Kayo is in some big dealerships, and I'll just name one out here in Arizona. I see them all over Ride Now, which has a huge presence, I know, in California, but also in Arizona and all over the country. It is pretty amazing, especially in the last 5 years, last 10 years, seeing Kayo rise to the status that we see it at today.
Yeah, it has been. COVID was definitely a help for us. We had a lot of product in North America when that happened. So when everyone else was shut off, we could turn on our tap line pretty fast and then fulfill orders and satisfy the demand that the dealers had. So that was our kind of foot in the door. Since then, they've understood the value. We're bringing new riders into their dealership. A lot of these riders don't have a set of gear, so they're buying from the ground up, gas cans, oil, all that stuff. So our dealer network's really excited about what we're able to bring to them, and still at a very, affordable price point.
I want to mention that a lot of the other OEMs, both Japanese and American and Canadian, a lot of their youth model ATVs are also built either in China or Thailand, or name your one. Kimco has a big presence with a lot of the major Japanese OEMs too. So it's not like Chinese youth ATVs are something new. They're not. I think Honda is the only one I can think of that really has, builds their own machines still, but they don't have really anything in this particular class. And the machine that we're talking about today, there really isn't anything in that classification as far as 300cc EFI, liquid cooled, fully adjustable suspension. And, this is a more modern engine. It's not a air cooled engine, so I guess my question to you would be why is Kayo going after this particular segment in power sports, which the other manufacturers got away from over a decade ago now, and claim today, a lot of them tell us that there is no market for sport quads, especially in that full size segment. Where does Kayo come in? Why did they decide that they would attack this?
So I can't speak on their behalf. I don't know why they left the market, but it did leave a big hole. And us being opportunistic, we could fill that hole with a model that already exists. It's not like we have to go create this out of nothing. It's something already in other markets. So for us, it's a natural fit. And as I'll explain later, you guys were big, what's the word I'm looking for? You guys kind of showed us where that segment was lacking. So that was a big turning point for us, was the incessant phone calls that we would get. And
exactly.
Just listening to the comment section, and Joe was putting out videos about our Jackal 200. And I think that was the first time I was introduced to Joe's work. He had that Jackal 200 video, and he did some research, and he saw the A300 out in Europe. So that's where it all kind of spun off and started. Working together with Joe on that Jackal 200 story, we together kind of dug a little deeper and unsurfaced a really cool bike that's right at our fingertips.
Yeah, it was funny when I first talked to Anthony. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I first talked to Anthony before they hired you in, it was funny because I called him to order that Jackal 200, and I'm like, Anthony, I want to order this. I want to order the Jackal 200. I want to review it. Here's who I am, who's we're with. But I'm telling you right now, right off the get, that's not the bike I really want to test. Like the bike
Yeah. So
really was.
actually, we need to rewind because Anthony does deserve a lot of credit. There was, before this bike that Jeff rode, there was another Jackal 300 in North America at one point. That time, for whatever reason, it didn't take off. We didn't begin to import it. And sadly, with those sample units, after they're here for a while, you bring them in under a certain certificate, and after a while, you have to decommission them. So, Joe, I'm sorry to say that there's been one already in North America that's been decommissioned. But that was the older carbureted model. Anthony does deserve a lot of credit because he brought the first one here and worked with Carl Kramer to go out there and kind of test ride it. This was early or late 2021. Circling back, it kind of died out there, and it got brought back up by you guys.
Well, I knew Carl mentioned to me about the 200. He never told me the 300 was in the country. I guess maybe he thought it was embargoed. I didn't find out that you guys had that bike here with Carl until after he was gone and Jeff had come in.
Top secret.
So as much as
I'll say it's the first I've heard about this, and I was working with Carl pretty close for a while there too.
Yeah, it was Anthony's favorite bike. He was very sad to let it go.
Well, it was a right bike, maybe wrong reception, wrong time.
It was probably just the wrong time. At that time we were going through a lot of growth, and we were just trying to catch up with the demand.
So in the end, obviously, I started whining, complaining, advocating, talking about the youth market. Jeff jumps in, and because we've been tag teaming in sport quads for about a year now, and wrote a story in Dirt Wheels about just the specs and the details and what this thing could be. Did you guys get some feedback from that? How was that received internally?
Oh, internally, the reception was awesome. We have never had a cover, and we didn't get the full cover, but we were on it. We were a thumbnail on the bottom, and that was huge for us as a brand to be involved with a publication like you guys, and to get one of our models that amount of coverage. And it wasn't a pay-to-play type deal. You guys were genuinely interested in the unit. So that right there, the internal stoke went up just with your guys' reception of it. And then in that article, like you said, or in that magazine, there was a 3-page article kind of breaking down the
specifications. 4, so yeah.
4-page.
I should mention you got another cover coming. I don't know if I'm supposed to jump the gun on that, but it's coming.
That'll be awesome. That'll be another milestone for us, because like you said, this is all relatively uncharted territory for us. We're really excited, though, that we have this opportunity to bring a bike like this to the North American market. Because to go on, after that story was published and the social media posts started getting put out about it, that's when the bed bugs started coming out. That's when all the people started filling up the comment section and begging for more details, begging for the bike to be brought in, asking for price points, all that kind of stuff. So that's when it really got turned on from the customer's perspective, and that's when we really started hearing more feedback from them asking for it.
I just want to mention our readers, and this was kind of a surprise to me, as Joe brought up earlier, it being a Chinese machine. 10 years ago, things might have been a little bit different. But today, I was actually surprised that the feedback we're getting from our readers is mostly positive. If anything, everybody is like, I don't care at this point who brings a new sport quad into the country. We just need something new. And particularly in this segment, for younger teens and newer riders, but even myself, I say I'm a former racer. I'm still racing, but I'm not anything like what I was. But I was pleasantly surprised during my test ride, which we'll get to here in a minute. But yeah, the reception has been great. And I'll say this to our readers out there. We listen to you guys all the time. Joe and I are big time sport quad fans. It's what got me into ATVs, and it's just refreshing to find somebody. And I'm going to throw all kinds of praise out there to Yamaha, who's kept at it, but to see somebody else finally come in and bring a new machine into a different segment, that 300cc class, segment. It's something that's been missing for a while. And, ever since Honda dropped the 300EX, I would say, and then you had the Raptor 250 also, which is an air-cooled, smaller displacement machine. But this is a very legit ATV. And in my testing, I was very surprised. And like I said, we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second.
So, through talking with these manufacturers and antagonizing them, and why don't you guys make sport quads again? We know there's a demand. You guys are just focused on side by sides. Why not? I gotta ask, because we get so much pushback from the other manufacturers. If you can speak to it, was there, as I talked to Anthony, and then you and I started having discussions, and Dirt Wheels is dropping stories, and I'm mentioning it in the Jackal 200 video. Was there any initial hesitation within Kayo USA or Kayo in Asia that you can speak of? Was there any hesitation in bringing this into the country? Was it initially doubtful or hopeful?
So there was a little bit of hesitancy, I will be honest. And that's because our bread and butter is the youth market. The Storm 70 is one of our best-selling models. And it is, like I said, a 70cc ATV designed for ages 6 and up. That is our customer. That's who's buying our bikes. Now, once you get up to the 16 and up market, you're trying to get the young adults and the moms and entry level riders into the sport. That's a different crowd. And in a lot of cases, you're competing directly with other established OEMs, So that was the hesitancy to go into that more full size bike, was to avoid the stiff competition. What we realized is that there isn't. We're not going to be lining up our bike next to very many other OEMs that have something similar. So there's nothing there to compete with. Therefore, it's a great model for us to bring into North America, and I think it's going to do well. I think it's going to serve the market well, first of all, and then I think it's going to do well for our dealer network.
I do too. And just to bring the viewers up to date, if you haven't heard about this machine, this is a liquid-cooled 4-stroke dual overhead cam. It has 4-valve head. Compression is 11-to-1, 292.4 cc. Horsepower, I think, is around 25, 26, something like that. I think I might have seen that on Carb or something. I don't know. EFI.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have those numbers in front of me right now.
That's all right.
It's not far from a 400EX.
It's not. It's definitely between a 300 and 400 EX, and I say that as somebody who's probably. I think Brock and I, we're probably the only ones that have ridden this thing in the U.S. so far.
No bragging.
Internal. I can't help myself.
Yeah, there's some internal KO stuff in there too. Yeah. You're the only non-KO.
It's got everything that we expect out of a true sport quad. It's a 5-speed manual. It does have reverse, manual clutch. It's a swing arm, adjustable shocks.
Solid axle.
Yeah, including valving is adjustment on it. Yeah, solid axle, disc brakes, front and rear. And, even I believe the bolt pattern on this thing is Honda bolt pattern. So if you've got Honda wheels and tires, they should bolt onto this. And of course, we talked about RWI wheels. There's a lot of dual drilled rims out there that will work just fine with this.
The thing of it comes with real cross-country tires. Like if you wanted to go trail ride it or cross-country race it, maybe you do a wheel swap just to narrow the front end up a bit, and maybe you put some a little bit lighter aluminum wheels on it. No big deal. So obviously it's very exciting. We knew when we saw it, it looked promising. The more we see it, the more excited we get. Can't wait to get to the ride part of this. So when was the decision made to bring a test unit into the U.S.?
That's tough to exactly pinpoint. When we said yes, we had been talking about it since that Jackal 200 video came out, and we started developing a relationship just through working together on that project. So that's where it started. Somewhere along that process, it got approved. That approval process takes a while because, like I said, they have to get certain exemptions to bring that unit in, and there's different criteria for it to be shipped into the States, into California, for us to test. That was the biggest hurdle that we had to get through, and the fact that we had already done this once before. I also needed to establish, the reason, and getting the cover and stuff like that. That was a huge push towards the finish line to getting that bike, at least the sample unit, brought over here. Go ahead.
Did I hear correctly that it's already been certified for 50 state Is 50 state legal?
That's what we're working on. We are in the approval process. So yes, we're working on both EPA and CARB approval. So we'll be
How is
about.
that going? And how difficult is it to,
Oh man,
especially dealing with CARB?
it's getting a little better. On average, it was taking about 13 months to get through start to finish one of those certification processes. Other companies are able to do it a little quicker. It just depends on what laboratories they're using and that kind of stuff. We're getting to the point now where we could turn it around pretty fast. It's come down a lot from 13 months, but yes, it's been a headache, and it's been a headache for all the OEMs trying to get their bikes certified to be sold.
Well, once you guys decided to bring it here, everybody's a little hesitant, not knowing, kind of afraid that we're going to go do battle with, Big Red and Big Blue, but they'd pulled out, and you guys kind of realized, all right, maybe we have a niche here that nobody's playing in. Once it arrived on the shore and you guys got it into the shop and were able to uncrate it and put it together, what was the reception like then? How many people internally got to check it out?
So I will tell you, I was there as it got uncrated. I was there as it got off the container because I was really excited. I was counting the days down until we got this unit because I wanted to see what it was all about. It's a brand new unit for us, and at this point, it was hyped up so much that I was out there while it was being built, and I can tell you I was one of the first to jump on it and ride it. And I was impressed just with how crisp the throttle response was and how throaty the exhaust was. It didn't sound like it was choked up. It didn't sound like there was any hesitation with the EFI system. Honestly, it felt really good. So I'm not a quad guy, but I do know motorcycles very well. And I know what a good running engine should feel like. If it's got 2 wheels or 4 wheels, I'll be able to feel how well the motor's doing. So, I took it up maybe to third gear in the parking lot. Motor is very peppy. It's fun. It feels like a 250 race 4-stroke bike that I used to compete on. So it's maybe even a little bit more. So it's definitely enough to pique my interest. And I have to admit, once I got it back into the warehouse, I was kind of throwing around some corners, backing it in, and figuring out what makes quads so fun is the fact that you can kind of drift them, and that's something that you don't really get to do unless you're getting ready to high side on a dirt bike. So yeah, right. that was the initial reaction. Anthony was out there. The entire Kayo team was extremely excited about this finally getting here, and that's from all the hype that was achieved through the magazine articles, the speculative article, and the cover and all that stuff.
Yeah, I would just say, as far as my part, I just spoke the truth about it. We were excited, I wouldn't say that we were trying to hype it up. It was just great to have something new finally coming in, and specifically in this segment that just had nothing.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I'm sure that the aftermarket companies are going to be thrilled to develop a new SKU, to develop new parts for a new model, because at some point you can only rebuild the current stuff, the stuff that they're racing for so long. There has to be something new that comes out and something to fill that void. The great news is a lot of the parts are similar to the Jackal 200. So we'll have some carryover parts already in inventory in warehouses across North America. And then between our 3 warehouses and our dealer network, we're going to be able to fulfill, parts, wear and tear order items really fast with our network. So it's exciting. It's not only a cool model, but we also have the infrastructure behind it to really support it.
So the first place you guys showed it was at the AIM Expo back in
February.
And so you had it on display at the AIM Expo. I don't think anybody knew it was coming except, us. And us. And so how was that? Like, so many people, so many dealers walking around. Did it seem to garner attention?
There's a lot of things that are very interesting at the AIM Expo. You've been there. Everyone's doing product reveals. I have to tell you, the excitement, the stoke was real, especially with our sales reps. Our sales reps are essentially the people that are going to go stand in front of this unit and sell it to the dealer network. And they were very excited that we were introducing this model to the market because they understand being out there, being in the dealerships, they understand where the demand is.
So your reps saw an opportunity.
The reps saw an opportunity, and then the media. There's countless media outlets that came by that wanted to do articles or wanted to learn more about the bike. Consumer feedback was really exciting too. A lot of foot traffic just coming by, asking questions, getting to know Kayo in the process. So not only is it a new bike for him, but it's also a new brand in a lot of cases. So it's bringing more eyes to Kayo.
Yeah, I'll just add that as I was there taking photos of it on the floor, I noticed a lot of dealers that carry the Kayo brand came by, and they were surprised to see it and excited to see something new like this. And that was great to see, as a media type that knows that there is a market for sport ATVs out there. That was refreshing to see. And on top of that, I also saw several of the other manufacturers and Japanese manufacturers coming over to take a peek too. So
yeah, we had some.
That was interesting. That was telling. They're looking at it, going, "Oh, wait a minute, maybe these guys are onto something." So
it was a very exciting experience for us. It's a bummer that it's not here yet in North America, but it's going to be a 2025 model year initially.
25.
Yeah, it's going to be 25. So we're looking to have it in our dealer network this year.
Oh, so good. So exciting. So exciting for the young riders. So exciting. I wish I was 16. I'll probably own one anyway. Just because, it's
Would you like me to tell you about it? Because
and we are coming up to that part of the conversation, which I think everybody's dying to hear about. So Brock, next, you and Jeff, you guys met up at Glen Helen, test day, finally going to get to ride this thing after a year of please bring it in. We really think it's going to do great. Think it's going to be your guys' just diamond that you don't know you have, because we just think we know more than the rest of these manufacturers, and God, we hope we're right. So you went to Glen Helen, met up for the first ride. Were there any modifications, special prep, anything like that went into the test unit, or was it just out of the crate, bolt it together, take it to the track?
So yeah, it was PDI'd by us, and then at the track after we kind of unloaded it, I took a few T-handles to it and just walked around the unit and made sure that everything was tight. There wasn't anything loose on it. I just do that for my own, I don't know, just to make sure everything's good. And everything was fine. So we didn't do anything. We filled it up. And that's about it.
So I will add to this though, that how the test ride actually progressed from that point was it was a letdown right at first, but it got much better.
We had every ounce of the day detailed planned, and we were executing.
And we got shot down. I got my beauty shots out of the way.
It was kind of a loose program that day, but it worked out.
Yeah.
It worked out. It could have gone better for us.
Yeah.
Tell us, just that's where we are now. Is we're at the test ride. So kind of tell us about the whole day. Give us the rundown. This was a works racing weekend, so it's very busy. And side-by-side racing, it just started off, and our plan was just to use the kids' track to do the testing for this, and we got informed by the track that we couldn't do that. And so Plan B went into the process, which should have been Plan A after we thought about it, because there was an unclassified race on Friday afternoon. So I quickly got into my race gear. I don't even know if I threw numbers on the machine. I transferred my transponder over to it and went and lined up for the unclassified race that afternoon, which was a full course race using the entire works course. So this is not just a motocross track. It was, several miles of off-road and motocross, and had some water to it and some very steep uphills. And it was kind of funny because as I pulled up the line, all my old friends are used to probably seeing me on a YFZ 450R see me pull up on this little orange and white 300, and all eyes were on me like, what is that? It's pretty wild. In a sea of Hondas, the people that are still trying to race the 450Rs and able to build those with what the few parts are left. And then just tons of YFCs to see something totally foreign pull up.
Totally foreign, but
was pretty cool.
Current
model year. A lot of people walked over and what is going on? This is cool. And they were all giving it a really good.
So let's rewind before your dream scenario happens where you get to go ride the works track on this super exotic bike that's the one of a kind in the country. I was on the kids track. I got about 5 minutes on it before I got kicked off. So I kind of got the raw end of the deal. But it worked out because, like you said, you got to take it on a course that was probably already kind of getting rough. And it's Glen Helen. It's a tough, it's a gnarly track. So
we're talking about there's a full course, like I said, and there's some steep climbs up that mountain.
Yeah.
And it took those on there. It didn't even hesitate. It was plenty of power to get up that stuff. I never had to worry. I might have had to shift down at the top, but we're not even, it wasn't like I was shifting down in the first gear. I might have been third to second or something like that. But
yeah,
it took on those hills just fine. And so you want to go ahead and go into the full test ride, my impressions?
Oh yeah, 100%. Let's go.
Obviously. I'll tell you, one of the most surprising things about this ATV that I wasn't expecting is the 5-speed transmission is buttery smooth. It's I dare I say it's Honda-like. It's just smooth, quick click. You can find the gears easily. There's nothing notchy or noisy about it at all. It's really, really good. I know you mentioned that you didn't feel like the engine is corked up. I might have used the term, it feels a little corked up, but I mean that in every good way. You can tell that there is a lot more available in this engine by just, when we didn't have time to do this, but if just removing the airbox lid, I think would really open it up even more. It's like this, when I was riding it felt like it wanted to give me more, and it was like, get this lid off of here so we can really go fine. But power wise, as it is stock with the lid on, it runs great. It's very linear. There's no flat spots, no hesitation. Runs great. Runs fantastic. Able to power it through the corners, get the rear wheels to break loose. Worked great. Suspension was really good. There's, some big jumps and stuff at Glen Helen. Of course, I wasn't airing it out because I was, new to this machine. But it lands nice and plush. I don't remember it ever really bottoming out. It goes through the rough stuff, the chatter, and the washboard rocks. Handled that really nice. Ground clearance seemed pretty good. I would say, that the front end width is just perfect. It's about 48 inches wide, I think, in the front. My big complaint was that the rear axle was too narrow, because I think the rear width is around 42 inches. Is that something we're going to see possibly change?
Yeah, so that's really cool. I actually got to send a ride report based off of that day at Glen Helen, and took it out a few other times myself. And, the feedback I got from them was yes, yes, and yes. They will extend the axle. They just have to do some testing. They want to make sure that they're going to build a bike that the North American consumer wants. And like you pointed out, that axle was kind of small. Me looking at it, I wouldn't notice something like that, which is why I love having you guys kind of chime in and kind of be the voices for me when I can't see something that's obvious. So they're gonna make some changes based off of what we had to say collectively, and we're gonna hopefully see that on the first batch of these bikes. Another cool thing is Kayo is unique in the fact that we're not doing huge runs of batches. We're not doing tens of thousands of units at one time. So we're able to make those batch changes or those kind of running model year changes a lot quicker than anyone else because of the size of what we're doing.
I'd like to add too that that's such a solid sign for Kayo and for enthusiasts with this bike, because with you and your family's history in dirt bikes, like the dirt bike manufacturers, the Japanese, the Austrians, they're pretty quick to react to consumer demand. They're quick to make changes. In the ATV industry, manufacturers like to build something and set back and collect money for years to come with it and make minimum changes. Now, obviously, this is new to the North American market. There's going to be demand for things like the axle, but seeing their willingness to make that change, plus I think you might have made mention to me they're going to make a couple other small changes as well because they feel it's necessary. The fact that they're proactively getting at making changes based upon the North American demand, I think it's an outstanding sign for Kayo. I think it's a great sign for you guys, and it makes me more excited for enthusiasts. Like, we might have this bike that might prove to be this Raptor 250 replacement, 300EX replacement that the industry has desperately needed for the past decade plus, and this thing looks like it might fill that role. I mean, what other changes besides the axle were they talking about doing? Are you allowed to speak on that?
So just minor changes, and these are details that other countries may not have issues with. I don't know what the moto scene's like in Northern Europe, especially for ATVs, but I found the shifter to be kind of small for my liking, and especially with the motocross boot. So little details like that, we asked them to change it. They said, hey, well, this one was designed specifically, it can work for both the motocross boot or somebody just wearing like a regular boot, like a work boot or something. So they have options. Now they've already said, okay, we could put the longer stroke shift lever on it if you guys want it, or we could just offer both. What do you guys want? So they're really trying to lend themselves to understand what we're asking for, and then hit all those fine details, in that manufacturing process. There's other details. You guys had asked because, like you said, you felt like it was a little bit corked up, but it felt like it breathed pretty fine. It was the exhaust.
And you could say that about any machine. They come, because of CARB and EPA, they come so lean as it is to pass those tests. And when I brought that up, I'm saying it in a good way. I can tell that there is more there.
So one of the good things on the bike was the exhaust. The stock exhaust on the bike is sharp looking, and it sounds crisp. It has everything you want in an exhaust. Yep. It looks like that's going to be the one that we're going to be able to get through EPA and CARB with. So it's going to come really close to being able to just unlock it fully. Yeah. And really let it work for the competition users.
And that's,
I hope you're correct, because I think that exhaust as it is
I hope
good.
so.
It's very good.
It's nice. It sounds crisp.
Yeah. And pulling an airbox lid off and putting it on the shelf to gain horsepower costs nothing. Maybe you need to find a fuel module, a piggyback fuel module, just in case the fuel map can't quite compensate for the additional airflow if it makes that drastic of a difference. But the aftermarket's going to crack into that thing and have a piggyback tuner on it in no time. The engine looks very similar to the engine in a major OEM dirt bike that we see out there that has a 300 motor and is green. So, who knows what parts may already exist for this engine. It certainly looks very similar, and that's good. So, all that being said, Jeff, anything else on your thoughts of the bike and the day?
I see major potential from the aftermarket, and I'm not, and this is not putting the machine down again, because all of us, I race a YFZ 450R, and it is got heavy aftermarket stuff all over it. So that's just part of racing. Yeah, exactly. And looking at this machine, I see all kinds of potential for, especially for those younger and novice racers, to build this thing relatively inexpensively. The frame itself just looks solid, and it felt solid. The steering felt solid. Like you get on some bone stock ATVs and you got that play in the steering wheel. You know who I'm talking about, Joe. It just felt right. It feels natural. I enjoyed it. Honestly, if my YFZ broke down on me and I had one of these out at the dunes, I would have a ball on this, even just cruising around the sand dunes and stuff.
We're excited. We're excited to have something that the aftermarket could develop parts for that can grow their business as well.
Yeah.
So it's cool for us. We're excited to start working as soon as we get some more models in with the aftermarket companies, and we'd love to see all sorts of different stuff for it.
So speaking of aftermarket, there's some guys in the ATV industry that are, of that iconic kind of like, if they like something, you can almost take it to the bank. And I don't know if anything definitive was said that day, but Jeff, when you rode it, Doug Roll was there for the works race.
Yeah, I came through the finish line, I was riding back over to my trailer, and I saw Doug outside the Elka trailer. And so I was like, oh, I go show this to Doug and get his input on it. And I'm not going to put any words in his mouth, but he had a big grin on his face. I think he was just glad to see something new other than a Yamaha or a Honda pulling up. And he gave a long, good walk around and close-up look, got down on his knees, was staring at the front end. And this is the second aftermarket suspension guy that's told us that it has a lot of resemblance in the front end to the Raptor 250, which we all love. And I kind of felt that while I was out test riding it too. Again, the rear axle being a little narrower kind of took some of that away, but I could tell, if we just get a couple more inches on each side in the rear, this thing is going to be just a blast to slide through the corners. But yeah, Doug, like I said, he had a big grin on his face. He was giving it a good hard look. He really didn't have anything negative to say about it. Again, like I said, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think he was impressed.
So that's exciting for us. That's super exciting.
So I guess that brings us to the question is what kind of MSRP are you guys looking at? How close are you to what you think it might be? What's it going to cost?
So as you know, it's kind of been a volatile time with the marketplace and importing stuff. It's looking like right now we're going to be able to bring that bike in for $4,399. So it's going to be well under $5,000, which leaves a lot of room for the aftermarket company to come in and design the bike and get it race spec for whatever kid there is that wants to take it racing.
That's impressive, because we were thinking between 5 and 6 for a while there, especially as things got a little crazy with the tariffs, which still would have been a good solid price for a machine of this size. I think Honda's 250X is what, 53?
Yeah.
54, something like that. And that's an air-cooled machine that doesn't have near the suspension travel. It's really not even in the same class. So $43.99.
Yeah, $43.99, and that's we want to still attract the entry level, the new to the market rider, and we're going to get them with that price point. The dealer still has all the margins still in it for them, so it's the dealer relationship is still going to be just as favorable as ever. For that side of it, and the consumer gets a great deal as well on a bike, and then it comes with standard 6-month parts and labor warranty on it. So
yeah, which is standard, absolutely, yep. Especially on a sport quad.
Yep,
solid. No, that leaves a lot of money. I mean, I think a DRR 90. I looked this up the other day, and it was like DRR. Builds a lot of kids quads here in the United States. They're more just purely competition focused 2-strokes, and they just came out with a DRK 90, and that thing is, I want to say it was $3,800, $3,900. So for like $500 more than that, you're getting a 16-year-old and up bike. Mid upper 20 horsepower, 48 inches wide, good amount, what looks to be a good amount of suspension travel that works well. I mean, it's an
EFI.
EFI. Yeah. I mean, outstanding price. And it's a 4-stroke, not a 2-stroke. And I think it's going to be in that happy 4-stroke space where it's like got some of that good old 4-stroke reliability, but got some of that new 4-stroke technology, kind of in that happy in between space, like
reliable but fun to ride.
Right,
it's going to be responsive. It's going to be responsive all the time, no matter where you take it.
So, do you have? I guess we're winding down here. Do you have a projection as to when we might be able to go to a dealer and put down a down payment? Are you guys taking down payments on these things? When do you think they'll be in dealership?
Not quite yet. We're looking October, November to have them inside dealerships nationwide. So hopefully right in time
for Christmas.
For Christmas in the Southwest, right before desert season. One of the things that Kayo struggled with is that CARB approval process. So a lot of our bikes aren't available to be sold in California, and this model I think is going to be good for us. Just all the families who go to Glamis, that go to Ocotillo, Searchlight, all the riding spots out here. not only is this going to be great for kids 16 and up, but I think it's going to fit around the campfire with the moms. I think the moms are going to get on this bike and find that, it fits them really well. It's not super intimidating, but it's got enough to keep up with the boys, if they need to.
For sure.
It's hopefully some of the changes that have just been announced by the federal government, specifically on California and CARB, their excessive emissions controls over what the EPA has. I think those are probably going to come into play to help you out there too, as well as other manufacturers. We're really counting on that. We just ran a big story on Dirt Wheels about that recently, and that was great news.
That'd be nice.
I think it was for bigger trucks and everything else, but it affects engines of all types.
Yeah,
and should be a big deal for power sports too.
Hopefully that gets through, because it's just a lot of hoops to jump through, and especially having two certification processes, EPA and the CARB, which are very similar but just repetitive. Makes it hard for manufacturers like us, and it also goes back to what we were talking about earlier. How hard was it to get this unit in here? Well, those certifications aren't cheap. They do cost money. So you have to kind of test the market and validate that there is a demand for the model before you go ahead and pay the fee to send it to a lab and do all that behind the scenes.
Exactly. And a lot of people I don't think they realize that somebody's got to pay for that. And it's reflected in the price, of these machines. So you can thank your government for that. Mm-hmm. But it is. It's a great machine. I was honestly very surprised at what it could do out there on the Glen Helen track. It got me a little excited. I've been talking to my wife about getting one for her as soon as they become available. So if you got any that you can drop in, before they hit dealerships, let me know.
Hopefully those refinements that you'd mentioned are on that model that your wife's riding. So.
Yeah. It's fantastic. I'm more excited than I thought I was going to be for this, and it's just great for our industry and the market. And thanks, Kayo, for listening to us when a lot of other manufacturers are not. They don't think it's there.
Now, hey guys, when this bike gets here and it's in dealerships, I can expect you guys will both stop calling me every day and harassing me.
No, we have more models to build.
Where's the 450?
When this exceeds your expectations, hopefully we can have a discussion about a K6 powered. That's a high performance water cooled 250 in a slightly bigger chassis. Yeah, that'll be next. So let's just get this done so you can give us more work to give you.
Yes, I'm just joking. We have a lot more fun projects to work on in the future, and this is just the start. But I'm excited because this is going to be a really exciting unit for us.
Well, there you go, guys. Jeff from Dirt Wheels, the oldest, most long-standing publication in ATV, and got a chance to go to Glen Helen, ride this thing. It is real. It is legit. I've been saying to Jeff for the past year, if it's a piece of at least we tried, and at least we put forth an effort, but we didn't think it would be. Jeff was more than pleased, surprised with the results. So that's outstanding to hear. Brock, thank you. Thank Anthony. Thank everyone at Kayo USA for taking a chance on our sport. The big companies haven't listened very much. You guys took a chance on us, and I hope it pays you dividends.
Awesome. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you for having me as the very first host of the Quadcast.
Well, you're our first guest. Maybe we'll let you host the next episode, but that's okay. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up with Brock here behind the scenes while we get ready for the next segment, which is the rev limiter, because some people on the internet have been talking smack, and we're going to call them out. So we'll be back with you guys with the rev limiter in just a second. Well, man, when you hear that sound, you know somebody messed up. Here's the rev limiter. Here is who came up short in the comments in June. Jeff, what do they have to say?
ATV On Demand and Dirt Wheels, we always get those comments of people that, just like to shoot their mouth off from behind their keyboard. One thing that happened over on Dirt Wheels, we actually featured a video. This was the Stadium GP in Reno, Nevada, which they had a three-wheeler race. And we showcased some of that. And to be fair, the track was pretty tight, technical, twisty, unlike, three-wheeler races.
Yeah, I saw that.
Ago.
I saw that video. I mean, that was a dirt bike track. It wasn't like a typical three-wheeler track from back in the day.
Right, and amazingly, they had a huge turnout of three-wheel racers. And it's
Oh,
great to
sweet.
see three-wheelers making a comeback. You know, whether it's desert racing, GP, Works has classes for these guys. But in this particular case, there was a ton of three-wheelers out on this track. And it got some good response, but it also got some negative response. And I'll give you some examples. One, Joe Sheldon wrote in, "I don't remember them being that slow in the 1980s." Well, a lot of these guys that were out there on the track were probably racing three-wheelers back in the 1980s too. So they're in their 50s and 60s. You can expect them to be a little bit slower. But Joe, they were out there on the track while you were sitting in your office chair criticizing them from your office.
Right.
So why don't you go out there next time and show them how it's done? You know, other ones were Aaron Cooper, who said, "Was that the warm-up lap? Aaron, why weren't you out there racing? Again,
Right.
show them how it's done." Another one, I mean, I have this comment after comment. One guy wrote, "This must have been their very first time riding anything with a motor." No. They were out there. If you guys, it seems like three-wheeler racers are the most angry group in the power sports community. And they have good reason to be, you know, because 1987, yeah, they got shut out. For reasons that we completely agree with. You know, it's too bad. I know a lot of guys that ride and race three-wheelers still that are more comfortable on them than they are on ATVs. And it's unfortunate that a few people ruined it for everybody.
You know, one of the things that got me into trying three-wheeler racing and building three-wheelers was these guys are out here on these old bikes having fun. They're not trying to kill one another for a piece of plastic. They don't want to wad up their vintage machines. And they look like they're protecting each other and they're having a good time. It's sad that that's their attitude. But, you know, based on all the criticism you're pointing out, at least we know that event's going to be double or triple in size next year from all these guys that are going to come out of the woodwork and show these losers how to do it. I mean, there's going to be qualifiers for next year. So if you're running your mouth, you know, I guess you're going to be there to race next year in 26, right?
Yeah, that goes for you, Matthew Roberts, who wrote, "You can tell they didn't grow up riding three-wheelers." Well, they probably did. Again, they're probably in their 50s and 60s. Things aren't moving quite as well as they used to. You know, they probably can't hang off the seat quite as far as they used to, but they're out there. They're doing it, and they are promoting the sport of three-wheeler racing to younger guys. I've met plenty of younger guys. It always surprises me. There's a lot of guys buying the old vintage three-wheelers. They're fixing them up, and they're getting out there in the dunes. They're going to these races. You know, it's picking up steam. So quit being such a bunch of whiners and actually support this. This is something good. It's something that you guys should be, you know, jumping in there with. You know, just get out there and have a good time.
Yeah, if you think you can win, go win.
Yep. Next, if you race a sport ATV, you don't want one of these things. That was a comment from Stanley K, who was actually talking about sport 4x4s.
Right. Yeah, he commented on our recent video we did at the Outlander Gen 3 versus the Renegade Gen 2 to kind of see like how they stacked up performance-wise. I think this is kind of a young guy, maybe picking up off of what he's throwing down, and he's a subscriber to the channel, and you can see it. So thanks for that. And I just think he's it's hard to troll this guy too hard because, you know, if you want to race a sport quad, race a sport quad. If you want to race a 4x4, race a 4x4. I mean, they're two different classifications of machine. They're both ATVs, but they're totally different. It's like saying if you want to race a car, you should race a Formula One car, not a stock car. Well, it's two different disciplines of car racing.
I race the Work Series. There's a couple of guys out there that are racing the Scrambler 4x4s that actually qualify for the Pro-Am class in the big race on Sunday. And they're killing it. You know, yeah, it's a 1,000-pound machine. These are some big guys. They're handling it just fine. And if you think that you're faster than some of those pro 4x4 class guys that are racing GNCC series right now, even on your YFZ 450R or
you're probably not.
Nope. You're going to get spanked.
Probably not.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would love to hear Cody Colley or one of those guys, you know, chime in on this topic. But the 4x4s of 20 years ago, the ATVs that they had back then, there's a lot of new tech and new features and big time performance going into some of these machines. It's not the old 4x4s of, the back in the day. If you haven't gotten a chance to throw a leg over one, you should really check it out. And then it might change your mind.
Yeah, the suspension and handling, I mean, they're not just faster. The suspension's so much better. The handling's so much better. But, again, like, it's not that one's better than the other. It's pick the one you like and go race that. And What else?
I got one more. And since we've been talking Kayos today, there is some of the comments. I'll go with Steve Lemon, who, when we put up a post about the Kayo, the 300 that we were just talking about, and how, the launch of this machine in the USA could spark a resurgence of sport ATVs in the United States. It's a start. We should all be praising Kayo for at least, sticking their neck out there and trying it out. It'll be a good measure of what, if they do well, the Japanese and the American and Canadian manufacturers may follow suit. Who knows? A new 450 might come out of this. But anyway, the Steve Lemon, when we told him that it could create a resurgence of sport quads, he wrote, "I seriously doubt this POS will do any of the sort, but it's your story, so tell it however you please." To which I replied, "Based on your criticism, you've obviously got some seat time on the Kayo. Can't wait to hear your review." To which he replied, "Why would I want to spend seat time on an entry-level quad?" Well, if you don't know anything about it and you haven't spent any time on it like we have, shut up.
Why come in and be insulting? Like, okay, it's not the new 450 you wanted. Okay, it's not the new KTM 5 something that you wanted. Well, you know what? Right now, for kids in that like 16 and up range, there's not much. You go from a Honda 250X that's shaft drive and a push rod engine. That's the kind of the one thing that's between 90 CVTs and a YFZ 450R or Raptor 700R. Young guys need something they can afford, and gals need something they can afford to save up for and purchase, save up for and modify, learn to work on, cut their teeth. And buying a 20-year-old sport quad that you can't buy parts for anymore can be a real pain. So, if you don't care about it, don't insult it. What's the point?
A great performer, solid suspension. I've driven it, done several laps at Glen Helen Raceway on this thing. Was pleasantly surprised. And at under $4,500 MSRP, how do you criticize that?
Right.
Even if you don't want one, be excited that somebody else besides Yamaha is coming to the market with a new sport machine, and there are other Chinese manufacturers that are doing the same thing. That's a start. Who knows what it could lead to? Jump behind it, support it, clap your hands. Good for Kayo and good for these other manufacturers that don't believe what the big OEMs are telling us, that there's no market for sport ATVs when they're
right. And if it's not the bike you want, but it gets that next generation onto an ATV that has a growing demand that's more vocal for more units in the market, the more chances are that Honda might come back, that Kawasaki might jump back in. Are we done trolling?
I think we are. I think let's save something for the next episode, although I don't think we will ever have a lack comments to comment on as far as the trolls go. So probably going to become a favorite segment.
All right. Well, we'll see who comes up short in July.
Yeah. And you guys, we appreciate your passion with the negative comments. We get it, but whatever. try to be happy. So I think we're moving into the last lap right here for our first episode of Quadcast. What do we got coming up next time?
And we are back. That was a great conversation with Brock Harden from Kayo. And now here we are for the final lap. It's time to wrap up the show. Jeff, what do you guys got coming up in Dirt Wheels Magazine?
We're just finishing up our annual hunting and fishing guide right now, and then we're going to dive right into our annual sand issue for the October issue. Speaking of sand issue, we will be out at the Sand Sports Super Show September 19th through 21st. I think we're going to have a booth out there this year, so come by and get your free issue and say hi. Tell us what you want to see in the next months of Dirt Wheels magazine.
Yeah, I noticed this month that you guys have, for those who say ATVs don't get enough coverage, here's a 3-wheeler on the cover. You have a reader? Who is this that built a from scratch with new parts 200X?
That's actually Mike Palmgren, who is the OG of restoring those machines. He's restored machines for Honda in Japan for their museum out there. So yeah, that's a big deal. My understanding is that Mike said that if he was offered $1 million for that particular 200X, he wouldn't take it.
All right. So you guys who have $1 million, you want to find out if he's full of it, hit him up, offer him $1 million and see if he'll take your money for his 3-wheeler. I probably would. I have one right now. I'll sell you for a lot less.
500
even less. Well, we got, we tested the Grizzly 700 recently. Loved it. Still love it. We've got a King Quad 750 we just picked up the other day. It's 2 bikes in the same class. I think we have a Honda 700 on a truck that's almost here. And rumor has it that Can-Am is sending us a 700. Kind of seems like maybe there's something in the works for a shootout that will be out in the coming months. So we'll have some tests coming up on those ATVs and a shootout over the next few months. Very excited for that. We don't get to do them very often because they're a ton of work, but everybody trips out when we do them, so it's worth it. So, absolutely. Jeff, anything else you got?
I'm good. Look forward to seeing everybody next month.
Episode 1.
Episode 1 is out of the way, and we are already got plans for episode 2. Look for some previews of that coming up soon on ATV On Demand and dirtwheelsmag.com and our social media outlets. Good stuff.
Yeah, guys, so before we split, make sure to head over to dirtwheelsmag.com, pick up a subscription. I'm collecting them all. I have a stack. It is growing. It's nice to be back in that. I resubscribed this year, and happy I did it. Love it when my new dirt wheel shows up. It's still pretty affordable. It doesn't seem like it's much more than it was 20 years ago for a subscription. It's crazy.
The printing costs have gone up astronomically. So yeah, it's a constant battle.
Yeah, cost of everything continues to go up. So anyway, join us for July, and next month we will take a look at what's new in the news. It'll be a little bit less about us. That was just so you could get to know us earlier. Look for more news, information, stuff that's coming on 2026 models. They're starting to roll out. We'll touch on some of that. We will.
The rumors are exciting, by the way.
Yes, they are. I maybe we'll see a Renegade. Maybe we'll see a new Yamaha. I kind of doubt it for this year. It'd be exciting if we did. But if we hear something, we'll make sure you guys hear it. We'll have a new guest for next month. We don't do this often, so our guests will be pretty special, we hope. And for those of you who want to make snarky comments, expect to get full throttled. And we'll have you on the rev limiter. And we'll see you guys again in July.
See you guys soon.
See ya.